Hey, Paul. So you're trying to find a method to be able to obtain this second part of the factoring. And I'm sorry for my English. I'm not a native English speaker, but hopefully you can understand what I'm trying to explain. And I mean, I hope this helps, right? So let's get on to it. All right. So whenever you are factoring, and I don't know how familiar you are with all the procedures and stuff. So I hope I'm going to try not to over-explain. But if something isn't like real clear on the steps, then just leave me a message and I'll try to expand on it. So whenever you have like the suspicions that you have a perfect square trinomial, you're going to have to remember the formula for it. So, oh, I'm missing one sign over here. So it's a squared plus or minus twice ab plus the second term squared. All right. However, the tricky thing with this exercise are actually the y, the minus one on this second one, y, and the fact that you never really know if they are giving you all the terms in the order of this formula, right? So you have to analyze each one. And to be able to analyze this one, you have to remember what are the characteristics of the perfect square trinomial. And the characteristic is that there are two terms where you can actually have them, you can actually obtain a square root for those terms. And they are usually the first one and the last one. However, remember that you don't know if this is given to you in order, and we're going to see that it's actually not in order. So you are going to have to analyze each one of those, and the analysis is down here, right? So you have to see, well, can I have the square root of 1.5? Well, you can't, because you're going to have the square root of 2, which is not exact. So you are not going to be able to use it, right? Now, you go on to the second term, which is 1/4 of y. And I just did the analysis over here, like separated. But I don't know, maybe you can just see it clearly that whenever you have the square root of 1/4, well, this one is easy, it's just 1/2, right? So 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4. However, the next one is kind of tricky because whenever students see like the square root of y is like, well, what can I do with it? Because I have an integer over here. I have y to the 1 power. So how do I square root that? Well, whenever you're square rooting, and this is important that this works only for squares, you just have to divide by 2 your exponent, right? So we just have to grab that one and divide it by 2. And you can check that, right? So y to the 1/2 times y to the 1/2, then you're just going to have to sum the exponent, and you're going to get 1.5 plus 1.5, that's 2/2, and 2/2 is just 1. So you have y. There you go. So we know that this one is correct, and that this one, it's actually an exact square root of this one, right? So this works. Now, the next thing that you're going to have to analyze is the y to the -1, and that one is also tricky because you have to remember that the fact that you have this exponent, this negative exponent, the only thing that it's saying is that you can just change it to the denominator, right? And just let it be over there with a positive exponent. So there's no problem because most students will go and say, well, I can have the square root of a negative number, but that's not the case because the problem is when you have the square root of a number itself. So then you're going to have to work with imaginary numbers and stuff like that. But in here, the negative exponent is just saying to you that you can see it on the denominator with a positive exponent. Or if you already understood very well the last one, then you just know that you just have to half it, to divide it by 2. I don't know if half it is yeah, my English starting to lag over here. So -1, you just have to divide it by 2, and there you go. You have the square root of y to the -1. However, this is not the end of it because these are not sufficient conditions to know that you are dealing with the square root, right? So what is it that we have so far? So we know that the second term, you can actually obtain the square root of this, and also for the third term. So we're doing great, but we need to check what is going on with the last term, all right? I mean, with the last term that we haven't analyzed. And this last term has to be this one in the formula. So how are you going to check it? All right, so you just grab all of the, we just have to put all of this together. So you just grab all of the square roots that you just find, that it's this one, and this one, right? I'm writing the complete square root of the terms over here. And then you have to multiply them by 2, which is over here. I don't know if you, now that I think about, I don't know if you can see my pointer. Hopefully you can see it. So you have to multiply by 2, right? And whenever you do this, this product, well, 2 over 2, that's just 1. So you're just going to have this 1.5, and y times y to the minus 1/2. Again, I don't know how familiar you are with these procedures, but here is the operation. So you just have to sum the exponent, and it's going to give you a 0 exponent, and anything to the 0 power is just 1. So the only thing that is going to survive is the 1.5. And then this is the final step to know that you actually have a perfect square trinomial, because these are the 3 characteristics, all right? You have to have 2 terms, let's put it in another color. You have to have 2 terms that you can get the square root of them. So this one and this one turn out to be this one and this one. They weren't, they didn't give you the exercise in order, and that's normal. They don't have to give it to you in order. And then you have to see that if you multiply by 2 those square roots that you just have, you're going to get this term. And this term turned out to be your first term. So the tricky thing about this exercise was that they weren't giving you the terms in order, and also what was going on with the square roots of y and y to the minus 1. Those were like the tricky parts on this exercise. So hopefully this is not too long, and hopefully you understood my bad English. So, well, in any case, if you have any doubt, just leave a comment on my comment, and I'll try to explain a little bit better.